Have you spent hours watching color grading tutorials, bought a bunch of LUT packs that make your footage look even worse, or maybe you've just given up altogether? If that sounds like you, then this video is for you. I've spent the past 6 years studying color grading, and it's helped me get the attention of multi-million-dollar brands who trust me to bring their visuals to life. In this video, I'm breaking down my exact color grading process to help you go from this, to this, and this, to this, and also this, to this. So let's get into it. All right, so once you're in DaVinci, you're gonna go to the bottom right and click on the settings icon and go to the color management tab and make sure where it says timeline color space, it's set to Rec 709-A, and where it says output color space, it's set to same as timeline. This is gonna make sure that the colors you see when you export look exactly the same as they do while you're editing. And after that, you can click the 3 dots in the upper right and click set current settings as default preset. And that's going to make sure that every time you open DaVinci, those settings are already ready to go and you don't have to manually do it. So now we're going to go to the color tab and create some new nodes, which if you're using a MacBook, the shortcut for that is Option S. So this one is going to be white balance. This one will be for contrast. This one will be for CST, which is color space transform. This one will be our LUT. And this one will be our skin tone. So when you're using the node tree, you're going to want to make sure that the LUT is either the last node in the tree or the second to last. And that's going to make sure that all the adjustments you do beforehand are adjusting the dynamic range of the original S-Log3 footage. Instead of if you put the LUT at the beginning, all the adjustments you would make after would be affecting the dynamic range of that LUT instead of the S-Log3. So I always start with the color space transform. You can go to effects and add that on there. And basically what this is just a Rec 709 conversion. So this was shot with Sony FX3. So for input color space, I'm going to use sgamut 3.cine. And for input gamma, I'm going to use slog3. And now we have successfully converted our footage from slog3 to Rec 709. And what's cool about DaVinci is instead of needing a Rec 709 conversion LUT for whatever camera you're using, or say you're using multiple different cameras, instead of having to buy a new conversion LUT for each one, you can just use the color space transform and put in whatever profile of the camera that you shot with. So we're going to start with the white balance, and we're going to go to the vector scope, and you're going to want to make sure the skin tone indicator line is also turned on, which is this right here, but we'll get into that later. So the vector scope is set up the same as these color wheels. And if you don't know how these color wheels work, the lift controls the darkest parts of the image, the gamma controls the midtones, the gain controls the highlights, and the offset makes changes to the entire image. So whenever I'm adjusting the white balance, I'm always going to be using my offset wheel because it'll make changes to the entire image rather than just the highlights or just the darker parts. So now I'm going to just add a little bit more warmth and green into the image. And as you can see, it's very subtle, but it's already making her skin tones look more natural. And this was also shot at sunset. So the original is just a little too cool for my liking. So now it's looking nice and balanced and a little warmer. So next I'll go to the contrast, and I like to use the waveform for this. If you don't know how to use this, the highlights generally sit at the top, the midtones sit around the middle, and the shadows sit around the bottom. So it's a nice way to see visually instead of just eyeballing it, where if I'll show you here, if I blast my highlights, you can see that those are being crushed at the top. And then if I lower the shadows all the way, those are also being crushed at the bottom. So I like to use that just as a double reference when I'm doing my contrast. So I'll go to my curves and I'll add an S curve for some more contrast here. And sometimes if I think I can add even more contrast, I'll start with the curves and then I'll go to the color wheels and I'll add a bit more through this. And as you can see, this is just the before and after of the contrast. So that's doing a lot to our image. So next I'll add my LUT, which I'm actually using LUTs that I created myself and I do have for sale. So I'll link them in the description. And if you end up liking them, you can try them out for yourself. So since I already used my color space transform and it's already in Rec 709, I'm going to use the all cameras folder and we're going to use honey glaze. And as you can see, this is without the LUT. This is with the LUT. And I absolutely love what this is doing. I've gotten a ton of really good feedback on them, and everyone who has bought them has been really happy with them. So as you can see, it just gives you that really nice warm glow. It gives you those golden skin tones, and it just makes everything look really balanced and cinematic without crushing the shadows or overexposing the highlights. So now I can come back here, and I think I might even just boost the shadows a little bit more, maybe add a little bit more contrast. And as you can see, this is the before S-Log3, and this is the final grade. So I'm really, really liking how this is looking. And honestly, I think I'm done with this one here. If I needed to adjust the skin tone, I would go to the color slice tab, and DaVinci has actually made this really simple. They have a specific tab for the skin tones. So you would just hold this down and it keys out just your skin tone so you can see it on the vector scope. If I needed to adjust it, I could add more red or more yellow, but right now I'm really happy with how it's looking. So we can go ahead and move on to the next clip. This was a shot from a production I did with Sandals Resorts. So like I said, I use these LUTs on all the big productions I do, and it has allowed me to land some really high-end jobs, and everyone always seems to make a comment about my color grading. So same thing here. We're going to start with our color space transform. This again was shot on the Sony FX3. So I'm going to go ahead and add those same settings. And once again, we've successfully converted it from S-Log3 to Rec 709. And we'll start with our white balance. This is honestly already looking pretty balanced to me, so I'm not going to do anything to that. And if you take anything from this video, I can't stress it enough, but if you nail your exposure and your white balance, most of the time, once you do your color space transform and add the LUT, you're not going to have to make too many adjustments. So I'm going to go to the contrast here and open up my waveform. I'm just going to boost the shadows a little bit. That looks good. And then I'm going to add my LUT. We're going to use the honey glaze again. And as you can see, it's looking really, really nice again. I love what it's doing to the blue. And it's also giving her, like I said before, those nice and golden creamy skin tones. So as you can see, I've hardly made any adjustments and it's already looking really, really nice, which is a testament to me nailing my exposure and my white balance, and also the beauty of my LUTs. So if I wanted to, I could literally just export this now and it would be ready to go. But for the sake of this video, I'll show you guys how I can change the skin tone. So remember, we talked about the skin tone indicator line, and this is where you're going to want your skin tones to sit. So I can go to the color slice tab, hold it down, and they are swaying a little bit more to the orange side. However, I don't really mind how they look, but for the sake of this video, I will push them a little bit towards the red. And as you can see, once again, very, very subtle adjustment, but now they're looking just a little more natural. So again, if there's one or two things that you take from this video, is that when it comes to color grading, less is more. I feel like I'm at a place where I'm the most satisfied I've ever been with my color grading in the past 5 years. And I also feel like my color grading process is the most simple that it's ever been. So just goes to show you that little changes go a long way when you're color grading a clip. And once again, this is the S-Log3 to the final grade, and this clip to me is ready to go. So we can move on to the next clip. And I wanted to show you guys how these LUTs work if you use either Sony, Red, DJI, Canon, and Blackmagic. So how I've been doing with the color space transform, where I convert it to Rec 709, I've made LUTs for all these specific cameras with that conversion already baked in, depending on which camera it is. So once again, this was shot on the Sony FX3. And if you purchase the LUTs, instead of doing the extra step of adding the color space transform, those are already built in. So this was the Sony FX3. So I'll go to the Sony folder, S-Log3, and we'll use the honey glaze LUT again. And as you can see right off the bat, this is looking really, really nice. And it has the Rec 709 conversion as well as the creative LUT on top of it. So it's just one less step you have to do. And if you don't use DaVinci and you don't have the ability to do the color space transform, that's okay. You can just use whatever camera that you use, and that Rec 709 conversion will already be baked into the LUT. So I also wanted to show here a testament to the LUT. This shot is shooting directly into the sunlight. And as you can see, the highlights still aren't clipping, the shadows still aren't crushed. And overall, we have a really nice balanced image, which is really hard to do when you're shooting directly into the sunlight. So not to brag too much about the LUTs, but as you can see, this is just one drag and drop. and it's looking really good right off the bat. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and just export this clip right away. But for the sake of this video, I will make some adjustments. So the white balance looks good to me. I'm gonna go to the contrast, and we can maybe raise the shadows a little bit and then add a little bit of contrast from there. As you can see, that's the before and after of the contrast. Just kind of brightened it up a little bit. And the skin tones also look good for me here. So I mainly just wanted to use this clip to show you guys how easy it is to use these LUTs. I mean, most of the time it's just one drag and drop and it's looking really good. Once again, I nailed my exposure and my white balance, so not many adjustments needed, and this clip is ready to export. So we can go over to the next clip. So this clip was shot on the Blackmagic, so I'll go ahead and add the color space transform. If you were using my LUTs, you could just use the one from the Blackmagic folder and you wouldn't have to do this. But for the sake of this video, I will put in the settings for the Blackmagic. And once again, we have successfully converted it from B-RAW to Rec 709. So then I'll go and start with my white balance, and this is already looking pretty balanced to me. And once again, I've been doing this for a while, so I'm getting good at just nailing my white balance and exposure. But if I wanted to, I could maybe shift it over magenta a little bit more. And for contrast, I'll open my waveform. As you can see, it's a little underexposed, so I'm gonna raise my shadows a little bit to about there. You can see it's the before and after of the shadows. And then I'll go ahead and add my LUT. And once again, I really like what it's doing. This is before the LUT, after the LUT. You can see you got those golden skin tones. The overall image looks really smooth and creamy. And I really like this like bluish teal that it's doing to the water. So the skin tones are looking a little bit yellow for my liking. And if I go to the color slice tab and hold these down, you can see that they are leaning more orange than they are red. So I would just push those back over to red. And now that's looking much more natural. As you can see, this is the before, this is the after. Very subtle. Most people probably wouldn't even notice, but as you can see, this is a little yellow looking, and now there's more magenta. Or skin tones look a lot more natural. And the reason you're going to want the skin tone as the last node if you're using this color slice section is because, as you can see here, if I went to use it before I added the LUT, it for some reason doesn't pick up on the color grade yet. So you can see it kind of goes back to the raw footage. So sometimes that affects the ability of it being able to key out the right color. So I like to do it after my LUT. That way it keys it out with the color grade being affected as well. And here we are with the before B-RAW and the final grade. I really like how this one is looking as well. So once again, I barely made any adjustments to these. I feel like my LUTs do most of the work for you, and then you can make slight tweaks as you'd like. But overall, I am really happy with my LUTs, and I've gotten a ton of really good feedback from them. So if you enjoyed this video, drop a like so more people can find it, and let me know in the comments what your biggest struggle of color grading is, and I'll make sure to go over it in my next video. And if you want to keep leveling up your videos, make sure you subscribe, because I got a ton of more videos coming to help you stand out to multi-million-dollar brands, raise your prices, and ultimately have a successful career in filmmaking.